Inspector Parr was sat smugly with his legs crossed carefully, so as not to damage the creases in his pristinely pressed trousers. He looked at his framed pictures and awards decorating his office and smiled broadly, his thinly pursed lips straining across his polished white teeth. Things were going well. In fact, better than that, they were going extremely well. His conversation with the internal affairs team was still fresh in his memory, and the superintendent in charge had nodded in agreement with his assessment of the situation. They were acquaintances from outside the police, and it seemed to be a progressive move forward for both their careers. Whilst a career criminal was the victim, which was a pity, the police had been seen to move quickly and take action against the unacceptably reckless actions of the police driver responsible for this unnecessary incident. The press release, Parr had suggested, should include the fact the offender would have been apprehended by controlled police tactics, and the main priority of the police was to maintain the public's safety at all times. What these controlled tactics were had not been divulged, Parr had said, for confidentiality reasons. What he actually meant was he didn't have a clue. He'd actually wished maliciously that the occupant in hospital had actually been a law-abiding citizen caught up in the melee, which would have raised his credentials even higher. He'd also declined to add certain other information to the press release, i.e., the fact that the passenger had made good his escape and was on the loose. The superintendent had agreed it didn't add to the credibility of the investigating officers, the fact that they lost one of the main witnesses. However, they both agreed that the press or the public didn't need to know this snippet of information at this time, as they knew it would detract from the headline news they both wanted. Ged had slumped back at his desk, exhausted, even though he wasn't even halfway through his shift. He'd spoken to D.I. Downing, who'd been called away to another incident on a neighboring division. It had been an almost imperceptible agreement that they'd both run out of ideas. Maybe this had gone to a level too high for the pair of them. Something just couldn't be fixed no matter how much willpower or desire was mustered, he thought morosely. He buried his head in his hands, closing his eyes, and thought of his career-long friend. His heart thumped against his chest. Nothing made sense or seemed to have any reason behind it. He was frustrated and felt totally powerless. He tried to shake himself out of his despondency. With little else to do but try and occupy his mind, he slipped the CD of the latest robbery in the laptop on his desk into play mode. He clicked the mouse and messed about with the settings as the disc began playing on the screen. He couldn't really concentrate on the callous attack taking place and realized he was in fact looking at his kids' framed photographs as they smiled lovingly back at him, willing him to provide some inspiration. Sadly, the CD had blurred into insignificance in the scheme of things, and even his kids' motivating stares couldn't empower him. His mind had wandered back to Steve and his family and what they must be doing and thinking of at this very moment. What would he do if the worst-case scenario did, as seemed increasingly likely, come to fruition? To Steve, his career had been everything to him and now lay in tatters, just because of some power-crazed knobhead that didn't deserve to wear the uniform, let alone have pips on his shoulders.